Let's get to the Mike Darda take over at Roth Capital. He writes the following: the Fed can be patient. The best thing Walsh can do is preserve the nominal stability enjoyed over the last 3 years. Mike joins us now for more. Mike, good morning and good to see you. They can be patient. Do you think they will be patient?
Thanks for having me on, John. I think they are going to be patient. New York Fed President Williams gave a very important speech, or really it was just prepared comments that were released last Thursday. And this was essentially his take, and the market did react to it. We did get some reduction in the pricing for forward rate hikes after that paper. And essentially what he argued is, despite the fact that inflation's above target, there's no denying that, the labor market, you're not really seeing any signs of overheating there. And his expectation was you've got a resilient economy and that inflation will come down, back down to target over time. I think the most important argument in favor of the Williams view is that the bond market is not really looking for these recent really high inflation settings to be sustained. Bond market inflation expectations actually have been coming down. As Lisa mentioned, Walsh really kind of came out of the gate pretty hawkish, focused on price stability, slimmed down the Fed statement, pulled the forward guidance. So bond market inflation expectations are actually on the low end of the range now, 220 basis points at the 10-year horizon. That would be consistent with a 2% PCE deflator over time. So the Fed's highly credible in the eyes of the market, and that is critical given everything you guys have been talking about this morning.
Mike, forgive me, it's a little bit circular, but is it credible because people believe they're going to hike?
Yeah, I think given that what's priced into markets, right? I mean, these markets are changing every day and they're forward looking. So right now, if you look at the expected path of the Fed policy rate, it's expected to move up, but not dramatically, right? 30 basis points or so over the course of the next 12 months. And the question is that, consistent or inconsistent with nominal stability, price stability over time, and the bond market is telling me that that would be consistent. And if anything, they might even be able to be a bit more patient than that.
What data, Mike, do you think is going to have the biggest ramifications for the Fed? Is it going to be labor market data that comes out on Thursday? Is it going to be the next CPI prints? How much is there going to be some sort of predictable reaction function coming from this FOMC?
Yeah, great question. I think it's going to come down to the labor market, not just the tone and tenor of payrolls, but what happens to the unemployment rate. It's been dead flat, as Williams mentioned, over a bit more than a year now. What if we get into a situation where the unemployment rate actually starts to fall? And then I think you're going to have an interesting set of debates that starts to take place on the Fed. That would tend to reinforce expectations of rate hikes. Yet if expected inflation continues to be low or even falls further, that kind of cuts the other way. So I think the Fed's going to be patient in interpreting what's happening to the labor market. But that really will be the key going forward. If you do get into an environment where the labor market is heating up, then I do think that the consensus probably hardens pretty considerably for starting to tighten monetary policy.
Mike, how closely are you watching the Supreme Court today for a ruling on Lisa Cook? How much does that matter for an economic call?
Yeah, I think it really does matter. I mean, we don't want the Fed's independence jeopardized in any way. And the good news here, and we'll see, how this decision comes out. The good news is the Fed still has quite a bit of credibility in the eyes of the market. Should not be taken for granted. And it's pretty impressive considering all of the tampering that's been going on. And so I think anyone that cares about monetary policy and is focused on markets is watching this pretty closely.
Not to get too much into the politics, though, but to Jonathan's earlier point, if we get this Supreme Court decision, are you expecting Governor Powell to leave fairly shortly?
I don't have a call on how long Governor Powell stays. It's certainly up to him. Considering everything he said coming into this and his decision to stay on, I think he'll probably be there for a while yet.